That's by the week.
What's good, honey?
It's all good, baby. It's always all good.
Mm-hmm.
We're here in Radio Room again, which means that we're here with a guest.
Yes.
This week, we have JJ Ruescas with us. Am I pronouncing that
thank
correctly?
you.
I probably should have.
Great. You practiced hard.
Yeah, I actually did it. JJ Ruescas is with us. Let's give it up to him. JJ is a human optimization strategist, which we'll get into exactly what that means, and maybe more importantly, like maybe what that doesn't mean to some extent. But thank you for joining us here today.
I'm actually honored to be here with you guys. I was so excited to have this conversation because the way that the three of us, get into conversations feels like a flow. So it's like this is a natural progression of that.
So why the hell not record it, right?
Exactly.
That's all the more reason.
Yeah,
All the
we were
more
out
reason.
to dinner and we were like, we should have just had the camera up here.
No, when I had this steak here, like, that's
exactly.
okay.
So now we have to do our best to recreate the magic that we had at dinner the other night. Again, like you say, it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to have you. It was an honor to have you run the breathwork session at our Fast Fest a few months ago. So I guess kind of like starting from the beginning, we met I think it was probably last summer at one of the Fjord Cold Plunge events, and you ran an outstanding breathwork session that I still say to this day is one of the best breathwork, if not the best breathwork session I've ever had. It was outstanding. And then we got connected a little bit more recently, and you ran our break fast party breathwork session with people that were 84 hours into a fast. So
And
already
you were as well, right? You fasted with us.
I fasted not that long because I did it 2 days and a half, almost 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Still.
otherwise I was not going to run out of it.
and that was the longest the longest fasting for people that you've ever actually ran a session
and that was
for,
beautiful
right? Yeah.
to because fasting is not just the challenge in itself, but the community aspect and the meaning that everyone was giving to it, right?
Yeah.
So breaking that fast or maybe reactivating the system through breathwork was gonna be nice.
Yeah, it was like an intense high feeling. I wasn't even really involved in it, but we were trying to get as involved as we could while we were prepping, and like just watching you work, especially like not actually being in the session, but watching you work your magic in a room with like I guess 20 or so people.
This is fantastic because you are one of the few people that have seen me doing my thing while
Yeah.
I'm there. They're usually in sessions, it's just I'm the one who's standing and everyone's like with eyes closed, right? But you were right there. So having you there, it was so nice. You're just a handful of people that have seen me doing that.
It was fascinating to watch. For the audience, I guess, we did the break fast brunch, and most of the people that were in the room were laying down and following along with the breathwork session with eye masks and headsets.
Fully immersed.
Absolutely awesome. And we were running around getting brunch ready for everybody because the goal was to break the fast as soon after the breathwork as possible. And like, yeah, we got to see you like in your element, really doing your thing. And it was
so amazing.
awesome.
Yeah.
Super cool.
It was really great to watch.
All right. So I guess with that, we should launch into like for people who don't know you, I'm sure a lot of this audience is probably people that you know tuning in, but for those who don't know, who are you, and tell us a little bit about what it means to be a human optimization strategist, I guess.
It's so interesting. It's the same question that I ask my guests in my podcast.
Okay.
I know I've been asking, I'm like, oh, I don't have an answer.
On the spot, yeah.
So my name is JJ Ruescas. I'm a human optimization strategist. What does that mean? That basically I am a guinea pig and a scientist of this specimen, and seeing and observing and learning what does it mean to perform this thing of being a human. Many times I joke saying that my mom used to get every single instruction manual from every single device that we got, and when I asked, hey, what's my instruction manual? How do I operate? She says, well, you just operate, right? And that's how we normally think, or that we behave or perform in life. Like, oh yeah, I eat, yeah, for sure. I breathe, for sure. I move, yeah, for sure. I sleep, yeah, for sure. But we don't ask if there is another way to perform. What's an optimal level? I'm not saying a high performance level, not a low performance. I'm saying an optimal. And so that curiosity was always there in my psyche, or something very internal that is continuously asking, how can I improve this? How can I improve this? Optimization itself is a never-ending process. Even the name of my business is called Optimizing Me, like ING, optimizing me, because I see it as a continuous and evolving process. So humans, why human? Because I simply love this thing of being a human. I think it's so fascinating. optimization, continuous improvement, or what in Japanese they call kaizen, right? It's a similar concept. And strategist. The strategist part doesn't come from considering myself a specialist. Many times I have been interviewed in sessions and they have told me, you're a specialist. I said, thank you. I consider myself more an strategist. What does that mean? From point A to point B, we want to go from point A to point B, and then we don't know how to get. Sometimes a person will say, I don't know, and that's end of the path. Another person will say, okay, I'm going to take this path that someone suggested. They fail, and then it's like, I give up. But as a strategist, my goal is to continuously get feedback and move the needle towards that end goal, and do it in a way that suits this person's needs, this person's wants and context, not just imposing my expertise, whatever, on someone because I theoretically know more. It's first of all so egotistical, and second, the person knows way better than I am. So we start co-creating those strategies and keep iterating until success is achieved.
You're coaching them. You're not just giving them your wisdom, you're blending it with whatever situation they find themselves in, and then you're putting a practical plan in place to get them to an end goal. Like, I think that goes well beyond just being a specialist,
sure.
which sounds like you just have knowledge that you just spit out.
Exactly. So one of the things also that I remind people is that I'm not an educator. I can provide information, but I'm more an educer. Do you guys know what's the word educe? Even in English, it was difficult to find it.
So. No.
So to educate is to feed someone with information, right? You feed that person with information, even if the person may not like that information. Here we go.
I'm good at that. That's what I'm like really good at.
It's called mansplaining.
Yeah. The other name for this podcast could have been the mansplaining podcast, because that's kind of what I've done.
Oh my God. Now, this other approach of educe actually sounds like seduce, right? To educe is to extract the wisdom from the person inner intelligence, or allowing the roadblocks of the person to just move away and allow the emergence of wisdom. So educate and educe are different things. My role is mostly to educe the person, helping them to remove those obstacles and come there. And if then I can, on top of that, provide information that fits or matches what they need, boom, fantastic, right?
Awesome.
That's awesome, because you're meeting them then like where they are.
Correct.
And not expecting like, no, you must do this, and like, I don't care where you're at, you're gonna do like what I say. Yeah.
More than just a protocol.
Exactly.
Feedback with the protocol. Okay, so we'll get into like the very specifics of what it is that you do, but from a high level at this point, I mean, I already mentioned the idea of like the breathwork facilitation, and again, I was joking earlier saying like, I'm one of the dumb people that would, even just a few months ago when I didn't know you quite as well, would have said, oh yeah, he's a breathwork facilitator, and just like made it that myopic in terms of what it is that you offer. But of course, human optimization strategist is far broader. So I guess if you can kind of parse through, I guess like the relationship between those two things, and then when people are coming to you, what other tactics and strategies and practices do you employ? And also, like, what are those people generally, where are they and where do they want to go? Like, what problem are they looking to solve for, or goal are they looking to attain?
In order to answer this, we have several layers. One of them is first understanding that personal development is something so innate to the human nature. As long as we're alive, we want to grow in some capacity. Whether it's physical, mental, career, spiritual, etc. There is a desire for growth. Anything that is alive tends to grow. Now, what happens with personal or traditional personal development is that there is an aspirational component that many of us don't know how to put it to operations or how to make it tangible, right? And nowadays, after thousands of years of collecting information or collecting wisdom from people that have done meditation, that have done yoga, that have done nutrition, we have Chinese medicine, we have all of those things combined with biohacking nowadays, with tools and technologies that are helping us to first assess what is our state in any moment and also have metrics. That is the combination of those is what I call more human optimization. Okay. And it's moving from the from the aspirational to the operational. Okay. And moving to the operational requires courage, because it's easy to hide behind the I'm going to read the next book, I'm going to do that. I'm going to, when I read the next book, no, when I take the next course, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And no one does this. And,
Hiding in the future.
Yeah, hiding, and behind the next group, behind the next book, etc. I'm not saying that learning is ineffective. I'm saying what is the driver for learning? Because the driver for learning is going to inform the driver for growth, right? And so one thing is understanding what is human optimization. Now, the other thing is that in order to be a human, the first thing that we do 24/7 is breathing. Then in terms of length of time, as long as you're alive, you breathe. As long as you're alive, you sleep. As long as you're alive, you eat. As long as you're alive, you move. As long as you're alive, you correlate with other people or relate to other humans, right? So having those processes as the main processes of innate process of being a human, that poses the question of how can we optimize? How do I know in the first place that I am regulating correctly with this person? How do I know that I'm sleeping properly? It sounds a cognitive question, but it's a connection between the curiosity that is cognitive with the viscerality or the nervous system in this case. So going back to what you were asking, Jared, so we have here the human optimization framework that we can talk about it. It's called Human Ops, the one that I created. And then the main thing is respiration. Many people nowadays, they are more aware of breathwork thanks to the work, for example, from the Iceman, Wim Hof, right? Made it mainstream, amazing. But people are still very, they're focused or just boxed in that kind of breathing that seems to be more flashy, more trendy, more marketable. But the moment that someone has heard this part, when I said respiration, I bet that someone, including you, became aware of your own breath, right? If you were holding or not holding.
Yeah.
So that is what I call breath cognition or breath awareness. Knowing when we are breathing, how we are breathing, when we're holding the breath, etc. That creates a different relationship relating to ourselves and also to the exterior, especially for athletes or leaders that I'm working with. If they're not aware of what's happening internally, it doesn't matter what's happening outside. They're going to outperform or they're going to perform in a way that is not conducive.
This goes back to, I guess, like the question that you asked your mom, which is like, how do all these things happen or why do they all happen? And most people just take those things for granted. Your heart beating, your breath, even blinking or whatever it is, like those things are all taken for granted. And to your point, like they can be optimized. And if you're more aware of them and you're more intentional in terms of how you're, I guess, like going about each of those things, and you're able to, I guess, slowly tick your way up into better performance, better mood, better feeling, and then better like brain, heart, coherence in terms of your overall energy and vibration. And wave, I guess, heart waves and brain waves.
Brain waves, both. And we can talk about the research also that I'm doing. Now, one of the things that happened over the last 2 years or so, I never realized this, but once I go to a breathwork session, usually at studios, etc., I did not realize that people used to look at me as if I would be another breathwork instructor. And so there is a nuanced or a skewed way of seeing someone who's an instructor in a yoga place, etc., like that. I never told I am a breathwork. I said I'm a human optimization strategist, and I never realized that there was this misconception, right? That people that are there, they may, or students or participants may think like, oh, this person is doing this out of a hobby, etc. When that is exactly what the opposite. In my case, that's my life, and I use all of those sessions to iterate, optimize. But people don't realize that after every session, I'm continuously optimizing, like what went amazing, what to improve next time. And by doing so, you keep iterating ad infinitum.
Right? You're an optimizer across the board.
Sure.
We were having business conversations too, and it's very clear that you like to have feedback from every single thing you do, your sessions, and then iterating on it and making it better and improving. And you always seem like you're looking for the next thing that's going to move the needle. And I guess you're not just a human optimizer. You're like an optimizer in all kinds of ways.
But that's how we started in technology.
I
started in technology and then moved to...
So we'll take a step back, I guess, and let's talk. I'm fascinated in knowing like how people get into, especially somebody who's like clearly so aligned with the work that they do and has made, quite a success for themselves in that space. I'd love to know a little bit about your background, where you came from, in terms of your career, as well as I know you're from Bolivia, and I'd love to hear a little bit about that and you going back there. which kind of helped guide you towards this path. But yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit about your background and how you got into what it is that you do now.
Yeah. This passion or slash obsession for
Yeah.
for optimization or improvement was there since I can remember. I was always tinkering with systems, trying to solve puzzles, always, always, always. And at that time, that passion, or let's say when I was a teenager, the passion for doing this kind of optimization or like tinkering with stuff was very well implemented through technology, because in tech it's easy to just get a piece of code and then you do some changes, and if it's working, if it's not working, you tinker again until it works. So iterate over and over again. Then once you have something working, yeah, high five, and now what are we going to the next feature, and next feature. So it was a natural tendency for me to dive into that realm, knowing that that was fulfilling part of me, but there was always in the background something that's like, okay, now what's next? What is next? I know that it sounds an obsession. It sounds like a passion slash obsession that I decided to just accept that that's how my nature is, right? And because of that, I got into technology, and I was the guy always asking the awkward questions. But why are we doing this? And it made so many enemies, right? Because this is how we do it in the company. It's like,
don't ask questions.
Same here. That's how I eventually decided it was time
made
for
enemies?
me to leave too.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I would say made enemies, but I certainly voiced my opinion and like questioned things that were not to be questioned. Were not to be
exactly.
questioned.
So questioning the unquestionable brings enemies. At least brings friction minimally.
Friction for sure.
Obviously, over the years, later I learned how to do it in a smooth ways over the years.
Yeah.
But at that time, I was not very well versed in handling humans.
Yeah. I mean, and if we're talking about optimizing things, whether it's like a tech product or optimizing your business processes, a lot of what this podcast has been about is about personal development and working on yourself. And the more you work on yourself and the more you grow personally, the better your life becomes, the higher you vibrate and you attract more things. So if we're looking for something to optimize, like your person, your vehicle is about as good of a project to take on. It's probably like the greatest system that you could possibly optimize would be yourself.
And probably the most complex ever that someone's going to encounter.
So then how'd you go from the tech world? I know you were a digital nomad for a while, traveling the world while you were doing that job in particular, and then you transitioned towards optimizing humans instead of products, tech products.
When I was in Bolivia, I used to work for one of the biggest software tech companies in Latin America at that time. It was the Google of South America. They had a huge entire building.
What do we know the name?
It was called Jalasoft at that time. I don't know if they changed the name or not, but that was many years ago. And so I was working in this company, and then we can talk about more how I moved to the US, but then I moved to another company here in Austin, and I moved here in a very interesting way. We can talk about that, but I wanted to point something out, which is once I moved here, I realized that I moved from a small bubble to a larger bubble, but that was still a bubble.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I'm like, it took me like 3 months. I felt honestly like Cristiano Ronaldo in a new soccer team, like, hey, I'm here. And then within 3 months, like, oh, crap.
Everything's a bubble, man. It's one bubble or another.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And so
Austin's definitely one.
So let's put it in context, this one. I don't know if I told you, but when I was in Bolivia, I got a near-death experience. And because of that was a slap in my face of the way that I was living at that time. And because of that near experience, I decided to drop everything that I was doing, and I got invited to move to the US because of that.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you able to tell us more?
Yeah, tell us,
So I have a lot of energy, very organic energy. I don't even drink coffee. Imagine this. So I am highly energized. And
breathing well will do that.
Yeah.
Literally, breathing well will do that.
Yeah, oxygen equals fuel, right? And so because I had this much energy, I had lots of energy, but at the same time, I was extremely cocky and looking for being the manager, having the title of manager, that I thought that was the pinnacle of my career at that time, right? And so I was always looking for that. And I remember that at some point I had I was an engineer for a company here in Austin, outsourced, but at the same time, I was the leader of another company in Bolivia. So I had two sources of income within the same company. I had the leader title. I was like, oh, I made it, right? And I used to do what every single Bolivian would do at that age, around 20 something, and which is go to party Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yeah. That's how my life used to be for a couple of years until one Saturday, guess what? I go drive to the club that I used to go normally, and someone roofied me.
Oh, wow.
And so it is like, the way that my metabolism used to process alcohol at that time, I never used to get drunk because I was in a lower altitude city, and then my metabolism worked faster. So I would drink, but I will never get drunk. And someone put that thing on my drink, and within 10 minutes, I remember I'm leaving the exit door. Then next blink, I am driving 75 miles per hour, if not 80, on the highway. And then next blink of an eye, I am being woken up by two cops in my house.
Wow.
Oh
my And everything robbed, by the way.
Whoa. Wow.
Thankfully not killed.
That's
wild.
No, you did not ever share that with us. We would have known if that was the case. No, that's.
I mean, that's like
it's
a
terrible
wake-up call,
story.
though, for sure.
It was.
You're
How
like, I
old were
need to
you?
change my life.
Yeah.
How old were you at that point?
26,
Okay.
25.
Wow.
I mean, we have a lot more in common. The partying
Yeah.
on the weekends, the cockiness, the wanting to be a manager, all that stuff. The having a lot of energy. I think that there's actually a lot in common here.
Yeah,
a
that's
lot
the
more than
reason
I
we
even
relate.
thought. Yeah.
So we relate, right? And my mind, when I woke up from this, the first thing I had was, oh crap, I didn't get drunk. I got roofied immediately, right?
Yeah.
So my mind started making the calculations of what were the chances of being alive.
Oh, yeah.
Someone, when they roofie you, they don't say, oh, he's 6'1". Well, let's give them this much. No. It's like, boom, and then here we go. Could have happened anything with my nervous system, with my neurotransmitters, etc. Then driving at that state, bad idea. Then not being killed in my own house, that would be even. So the chances of surviving are minimal.
For sure. Or like, not only hurting yourself, but someone else.
And someone else.
Like on that drive home. Like,
exactly.
My gosh.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Later, when I was researching and learning more about diving into neuroscience, I realized what was the kind of component that they gave me that blocked the short-term memory, and that's the reason there are so many components there. But the point is that once I woke up and I realized that I was given another chance to live, I said, what I do really want to do. Yeah. And I remember 3-4 days, maybe at most 4 days after this event, still in shock. I was invited to the office of the CTO of that time, and they asked me, they invited me because if they invited you, they were going to offer you a manager position. They wanted to ask you, so what's your plan for the upcoming years? And you wanted to say, I'm going to be loyal to the company.
Yeah.
The first thing I said is, I'm going to quit and I'm going to backpack to Australia.
Good for you. Good for you.
And then I realized that, oh, did I really say that? Oh, yeah, I said that.
It was 4 days later.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they asked,
funny
why?
how those things align, huh?
Yeah, and they say, why? And I explained, and the person was like, what? And I said, I realized that I'm wasting my life doing things. I mean, I love technology, I love traveling, but I'm fooling myself trying to just find a manager position or having the fame of this. It's like trivial stuff, like vanity metrics, how we call it in technology. And because of that, once I decided to quit, the other company in Austin said, if you love technology and you love traveling, why don't you move here? So that's how I ended up moving here.
No real plan, though.
No real plan.
Okay. So what did it look like early in Austin for you? What were you doing? And then how did you, of course, get into human optimization specifically?
I did not realize that I had been already in human optimization because of the way that I see this continuous optimization of stuff. When I was working in tech still, I was not the guy who was trying to get the next toolkit, the next app, the next platform, the next AI. Well, at that time there was an AI, right? But I was more interested in how each one of us as a team are performing. Meaning, are you getting properly fed? Are you getting properly rested? Am I getting properly rested? And so those questions that go, the meta questions that go beyond or behind or below the professional things, those are the ones that I used to be more focused on. in my case, I used to tell people I'm not this Clark Kent Superman dichotomy or double personality, right?
Yeah.
That at work there are something, and then outside of work there are someone else.
Like
someone
so many
else.
people are.
Right, which is and it's culturally what I see here in the U.S. Right,
Yeah.
there's this persona here and then this other persona here, and there's a conflict sometimes between both of them.
Without doubt.
In my case, I used to say I'm more like a Tony Stark. I'm the same guy with or without the armor.
Without
The
the
same
suit.
guy.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that would have made you a great manager, though. You know, like asking people specifically about what is happening behind the scenes. It's not
Definitely.
about like the work that they're doing when they're
Hitting their
sitting there at their
metrics.
computer and
Yeah.
all the metrics and all that. It's about all the stuff that's happening behind the scenes as well. Like when I was a manager, that was something that I was really big on. So it sounds like you probably would have been an awesome people manager at the same time, and you are, of course. Like you have people that you work with now.
Yeah, and we're nowadays in my team we're constantly asking, and so we got trained, or I train, and I continuously getting training how to assess nervous systems. So we know when there are friction in conversations in the team, we know like, oh, this is what is happening. Let's take a step back. What is happening behind it? And we have created the culture, and we have created enough trust so we can ask those awkward questions, or let's call it awkward, or very deep, profound questions that in other
The real questions.
the real questions, the ones that really
Yeah.
matter. You're right, because otherwise we're just fooling ourselves, not trying to say the truth or trying to hide something that is actually the gist of the problem. Right?
Exactly. Cool. Sorry, not to cut off the rest of your
okay.
story.
So yeah, I used to be focused more on those ones, knowing that the tech was going to evolve faster, and that we were we needed to keep, first of all, a very open mind, and also have ways to learn as fast as possible, and also unlearn as fast as possible. Because someone has learned a behavior, let's say, then we stick to that behavior, even though that solution is outdated, and we just keep doing the same thing. So I was more focused on those meta skills, on those meta layers of interaction between teams. And over time, this is so interesting, but I got kicked out of the US.
Okay.
Did I tell you that?
No, I don't think so.
Oh my God. So within 3 years, 2 years and a half of living here, now I have this structured life and doing the 9 to 5, etc.
Yeah.
Right? It's working like, okay, I have the American lifestyle or whatever that it's called. But one day I'm walking in the hall of the office, and the HR person, I usually say, hey, when I was walking, and said, JJ, come back. And they said, we forgot to tell you, but your visa got canceled.
Oh my gosh.
And you have 30 days to leave the country. And they look at the calendar.
They
actually
forgot to tell you.
28.
They forgot to tell you.
Thanks, human resources.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for taking care of me.
Oh no, 28
It's like
days.
that.
Okay.
It was like that. And I said, what? Yeah, we had it has nothing to do with you. It was a mistake from the sponsorship, and legally no. So you have to leave. You need to leave the country, period. So everything that I have built until that point, gone.
Wow.
In a second. I even remember in my birthday, which was within that frame of the 28 days or so, I organized a come and take it party.
Oh my gosh.
So as soon as you got into the apartment, you were given blog post stick notes, right?
Okay.
And
just putting
exactly. Kate,
what
did
you
you
want?
like this project? Jar this
Come and
in.
take
So
it
at
all.
the end, you will take everything. So one night we cleaned my apartment.
Wow.
There's your birthday party?
That was my birthday party. That was my birthday
It's an
party.
easy way to get rid of everything. You don't
Yeah,
have to hire movers. There you go.
Yeah, that was great. That's
Yeah.
great, right?
That was a genius
And
way
it
of
was
thinking
very meaningful at the same time because I needed to get rid of things that I've been carrying
Yeah.
for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So for years, I've been thinking at that moment, I see all of these people traveling the world and then just working from their computer. How am I going to make it happen? Guess what? That was the perfect opportunity.
Yeah.
So as soon as everything got cleaned up, I became a digital nomad.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Where did you go during that time?
First of all, I went to cry my eyes out in my parents' place because it's like I didn't have the idea yet or
Yeah.
the courage, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
lost everything like this. But then I said, wait a second. That's when I said, now I can make this happen.
Yeah.
And now, once I started, the first stop was Medellin, Colombia. Oh,
Yeah.
Nice.
never forget that. Have you been to
Colombia's beautiful.
Colombia,
yeah.
yeah.
Not Medellin. We've been to Cartagena.
Cartagena is
Yeah, it was
equally
just
beautiful.
gorgeous.
Oh, the arepas there. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
So easily and quickly I realized that if I wanted to be high functioning, and not only high functioning, but high performance under any circumstance, I would have to, first of all, you're in a Colombian coffee shop and then you get distracted like easily like this, right? Like,
Yeah.
I need to focus. I need to learn to focus, right? So the first thing was learning how to focus.
Okay.
Then I realized that if I wanted to keep traveling, hopping from city to city, country to country, there was going to be lots of climate variations, time zone variations, etc. So I had to learn how to keep my movement practices, my nutrition, my sleep under any circumstances.
Yep.
Not being rigid for the sake of being rigid, but being adaptable enough within the realms or within the ranges of optimal performance.
Yep.
So that was a fast track into human optimization, being myself the guinea pig.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Didn't you also mention that when you went back to Bolivia, you went to altitude, and I forget the details of the story, but you got hit harder than you normally did in the past?
That was before I became a nomad or anything, right? And this one was even before way before even moving to the US. But I was born in a 13,000 feet city, a high elevation city, and so when the fish is in water, they don't realize that it's water. It's like, what are you talking about, right? And in my case, what it used to happen, and probably going back to what Jared mentioned, when I used to go to lower altitude places because there was more oxygen available, I will inhale and like all my cells will get more oxygen. So I was high on life. It's the contrast to people when they go from low altitude to high altitude.
Yep.
Energy gets drained.
Yep.
Right, and it is tough. You've been to high altitude.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How was
I think I may have told you I'm normally pretty good at high altitudes, but there's been a couple times where, especially like that first 12 hours you're there, it takes you like almost a day to settle in sometimes. But when I was in Mexico City, I was like the entire week that we were there, I was struggling. I was dry and I was huffing and puffing, just like walking down the street. That was kind of interesting. Yeah, that was like the worst that it's been. I never got like altitude sickness though, like
but that is part of altitude sickness. Those are symptoms.
I guess so. Yeah,
Those are
I guess.
symptoms. How about yours, Katelyn?
Yeah, I didn't have any issue.
Yeah,
not
you're
that I
usually
like
good.
remember. I was like, they always say like just stay hydrated, and that's like what I did. I was like drinking plenty of water just to do that, and I was fine.
Great.
So,
And every nervous system is different.
Yeah.
Adaptation is different. In my case, once I went to visit my family, after not living there for 3 years or so, because I moved to another city, it didn't come from my home city to the US. I was in another city. Then I landed on the airport. I'm like so excited to see my family. Get a cab, takes me to downtown. It was like 6 a.m., 6:30 a.m. probably. Like the sun is just coming. It was like, I haven't been in this city for a while, right? As soon as I get inside of the door, my mom cries like, "Oh, we have missed you so much." I start crying like, "This is so good." Dehydration, right? Dehydration from the ice. That's what I said. Give me 1 second. I need to go get water. And as soon as I turn to the kitchen, that is when face planted. No bouncing, right? And that was very, very surprising to me. Not at that moment, because at that moment, a cockroach that is trying to just survive. My sister pulled me out of this, took me to the restroom, and then took me to the bed when I was recovering for like 3-4 hours.
Wow.
So once I was able to come back into this reality, I said, wait a second. How does oxygen work in high altitude? I think theoretically my nervous system, my body is designed not to just live, but to thrive here. What the hell just happened? And that was the beginning of the curiosity that led me to the things that you're seeing me do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that, I guess let's talk about today. What specifically, in more like, I guess, practical matters you do. What do people come to you for? What do you help them with? What are they struggling with? Where do they want to get to in terms of like their overall goals? And I guess maybe some like the main, again, practices or modalities that you employ to help them get where they want to be.
Yeah. This human ops framework that I created, it is a blending, and it's a framework. It's not a methodology. It's not a step-by-step, because again, how cocky or how arrogant to say, follow this recipe and you have to stick. And if you do not stick to it and you fail, it's not because of this, it's because of you, right? It's not like that. So a framework allows enough flexibility or provides enough constraints or flexible constraints for a person to start first baselining where they are at, whether it's in their psychology, their physiology, and emotions, and where they want to get.
Okay.
So mostly when I work with leaders, I usually work with organization leaders that they want to get to the next level. So it could be for two reasons. First, because they have hit already burnout. That's one thing. Or the other one is like, okay, they have reached a plateau and they want to go to the next level. Both of those ones is focused on performance. And you guys are experts also in mindset and nutrition and movement, etc., right? So in my case, I love working with organization leaders because they are highly creative and driven people. I love
for
doing
sure.
that, right? So probably that resonates
Sure.
between us. And so that is one of the demographics that I work with. And the other one is any nervous system that is alive.
Yeah.
And that is in breathwork. Right? Yeah.
That's the bigger bucket, I guess.
That's a very bucket. Yeah.
I'll ask you, like, when you have these leaders that come to you and they're looking to, again, whether they've hit the plateau or they've hit that burnout, in general, have you found that there are people who have done a good job of taking care of themselves generally, and they're coming to you to like continuously improve, or are most of them people who they've kind of like maybe prioritized their work, or they're like their finances and they've let the other things slide and they come to you to?
You know, it's interesting that you ask that because every one of those leaders comes with an overdeveloped or over-optimized area.
Okay.
And the other ones have been
they're
let
neglected.
slide.
Yeah,
Okay.
for
neglected,
sure.
right? The guy
Absolutely.
that has optimized his business until $25 million ARR, for example, but has no way to discern what's happening in the body. It's like so over here in the head that they cannot connect, and that is leading them to burnout quickly, or not even burnout only by themselves, but they cannot have proper communication with people, which is deteriorating the entire culture of the team, something like that.
Wow.
Other ones, they're athletes. They have climbed Everest. They have climbed so many things. They're highly accomplished, but they have found usually a plateau here. And what I've noticed, what I've discovered the last few years is that they know that they need to upgrade their identity, but they're afraid.
Oh.
And they may not even realize the reason they're afraid. Let me give you an example.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, what are they? What's holding them back? What's
for
the
example,
fear?
this man that I was working with 3 years ago or so had taken a company from making not even $1 million a year in 15 years to $100 million a year. It was crazy. So he was an eminence in his industry. Now, with that knowledge, he wanted to pivot into this other one. Cognitively, he knew that he was gonna make it, but emotionally, it's like, no, I can't. What happens if I fail? And so that kind of disconnection between understanding his emotions was not moving him past the cognitive part.
Okay.
Doesn't matter how much we think positive information. If the nervous system is on board, it's like, F you, not at all. That's not gonna work. It's not gonna happen. And that could have happened because of trauma. That could happen because of, mostly it's trauma.
Okay.
Mostly it's trauma. But people that have accomplished so much here and then they cannot move it over here. So little tweaks, whether in the physiology, psychology, or the emotional or mental aspect, those three things are going to just combine and then move them. So does that answer your question?
I think so. I guess, so let's get into the framework that you've built. And I'm curious, given that, let's use that example maybe. How do you assess somebody with that? How do you find out that is what his blocker is? We'll start there, and then we'll talk about how we actually like get him.
Works it.
Cool. One of the things that is good to mention that you just started, Jared, is the baselining. For human optimization or for any real personal development, my theory is that we need to baseline. If someone wants to lose weight, what's the first thing that they need to do? Go for a run? No.
Yeah.
Can I say that word?
Yeah, absolutely.
I curse all the time.
Find their baseline. Figure
Find
out
their
where
baseline. Thank you.
Find their fucking baseline.
So just get a proper balance and just day number one, this is my weight today.
Yeah.
And many times what it happens is that their ego, their mind feels threatened by that.
Yep, for sure.
So first thing is like putting them aside and then being objective.
Yep.
With that being said, it's like, okay, what is the goal? So now we're starting to talk from point A
So,
point
but
B.
with that baseline, it's not just the metrics of like what is their, for example, what is their weight, let's say, but it would be like what is your activity level currently?
Correct.
What are you eating on a regular basis?
And it depends on what is the goal. So I'm
Yep.
giving you an example.
Yep.
If someone wants to lose weight, and
Yeah.
you know that, we need to
Yeah, we have to know where they're at.
Know
Right?
where they
And
have
then
to-
what's they want to get when, right?
Yeah.
Easy.
Yep.
But so to get a roadmap. So because one strategy is not going to work, let's do the other one. Let's do the other one. Let's do the other one. In this case, for example, the identity change, because even this one of losing weight or gaining weight, whichever, it is also requires an identity upgrade,
Yep.
an identity upgrade. And so baselining, what is the way that they are relating to other people? What is the way that they are moving their body? How long are they spending in front of the computer? How long are they spending high quality time with other people? How long are they spending in solo time? Many people that I worked with, they have no solo time, and that's what like constricting them because they need to have some solo time,
Yep.
right? And equally in terms of psychology, how is their mind working or not? Usually leaders, it is the pushing, and they want to push something past being because that is a learned behavior, a learned strategy, and they think that that is going to work all the time when actually that is the one that may be blocking them from in the next place, and they need to learn to release. It sounds paradoxical, but once they start experimenting with that, they start learning. Oh, there are other behaviors, other ways to do it. So
I've been there. We've been there for sure.
yeah, and it's likewise in my case, like over optimizing. Sometimes I can over optimize. So I have, thankfully, my team tells me, "Hey, JJ,
You're over
we're good with this.
optimizing.
We're good with it, thank you."
That's a nice way of putting it. You're over optimizing right now, dude.
Yeah, it's like the guy you see. The guy that has been too long in the gym for too much time, only doing upper body.
Yeah.
Like under optimized, underdeveloped legs.
Not over here.
Not over here, clearly not over here. But you've seen those ones.
Yeah, no, I've seen it
Oh,
for
for
sure.
sure. For sure.
Okay, so you're finding the baseline, and then so there's the three components, and walk us through that. Yeah.
So finding first point A, point B, what is the goal? Finding the baseline in psychology, physiology, and the emotional aspect. The majority of people, they have no literacy in the emotions, for example. So that is one of the big components that happens there. But after that is like, okay, based on the context of this person, what is the quickest path to get to this goal? Quickest and sustainable, by the way.
Yep,
Sustainable.
of course.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
Yep.
huge.
So
Yeah.
which that goes into more of transformational coach, etc., more ontological coach strategies. But what I normally apply is understanding the nervous system, because if someone, I am constantly assessing, and this one also happens during the breathwork sessions, I'm assessing what the person is saying compared to what the person is saying with their body, right? And if there is a mismatch on that, I'm like, oh, what is that? And I ask the awkward questions. And sometimes those awkward questions are what the person has never heard or did not even want to question themselves. Those questions, and those are where the real magic happens.
For sure.
Right? So, but once we get into I'm not saying this in terms of finding symptoms or root cause. I'm saying like, oh, what was that? And then understanding what the emotional and psychological aspects are happening at one point allows us to create strategies based on their context. Oh, I want to get point A to point B, but it feels like if I do that, I'm going to lose my friends. Right? The leader that wants to move from here to here, or from here to here in terms of revenue, let's say. But they know that once they get there, because I have seen other examples, they're going to be isolated. And so they don't really want to do it. They want to do it cognitively, but not here. But now that is the rewiring of helping a person to expand their perspective. I'm like, okay, once you get here, how many other people are you going to support in the first place? I'm like, I never thought about that. And what is the level of quality of life that you can provide to yourself, to your family, to da-da-da. I'm like, oh, I never thought about that. So that's seeing the bigger perspective. I'm giving you an example of someone who wants to scale to this level, right? So there are the nervous system. When I'm talking about the nervous system, is the intelligence of this operating system, how it's running, and what is in misalignment between the mental aspect and the nervous system aspect. Once we're able to create coherence between those two, not just aspirationally, but operationally, then the energy or the drive just starts flowing. So the strategies become easier. And even the person may find, air quote, failure in one of the strategies. They do not just give up. They're like, okay, feedback, now iterate. feedback, iterate, feedback, iterate, and that starts creating this momentum. And it becomes, it's interesting that this is called the genius in progress, genius at work,
yeah.
genius at work. What would happen if it is genius at play?
Yeah.
Many of the things that I do, I'm playing. People think that I'm working, but I'm enjoying so much. So that's part of what I want to inspire in people that I work with, whether it's one-on-one or in groups, the curiosity of what's next and how to keep iterating with this. We know this metaphor of the kid that is learning to take his or her first steps, and they fail. They don't give up. You just keep playing and playing, because that's a fun part of like, oh, what happens if I step one, step two, fall, one step two, and then step three, oh, that works, and then they start running, right?
Exactly.
And then,
Now they're off.
right.
When you're having that conversation with that person, and you're trying to figure out where the difference is between their head and their heart, where the gap is there. Is that done? Of course, it sounds like you're doing, let's say, a breathwork session, and you're watching their body in that case. But then are you doing like interviews with them, or you're sitting there just having conversations with them, and just, is that the main process?
So the one-on-one uses the entire framework that I would say, but it's not like, as I mentioned, step one, step two. It's like, from this toolkit that I have, what is it that this person needs at this moment? And I don't know what the leader going to bring me at that moment. I don't know what I'm going to come up with. Yeah. So probably because of the last few years, something that I didn't tell you is that one of the things that changed my life was the first year that I was living here in Austin. I told myself, I gave myself this promise, which was never to finish one day without learning something new for at least 10 minutes a day. Sounds obsessive. It is. So
I'm trying to optimize. You're just trying to optimize.
And what happened is that I said, there are so many things that I would like to learn. Where am I going to start? And so I decided to cherry pick one topic and then just give it 1 month. That's it, just 1 month. If it's 10 minutes per day in 1 month, it's like 5 hours, like 2 movies.
Yeah.
Right? Obviously, if it's something that you're hooked into, it's going to be more than 10.
Yeah, for sure.
And that started creating, so I've been doing this for the last 10, 11 years. And so that has created a lot of, that's what was the basis of human optimization and all the toolkits that I have.
I was going to say, you have so many tools that you can just talk to anybody, pick up on what they need, and you're like, okay, I had that tool. I know what to get for you.
Yeah.
So that's great.
And in that case, I don't consider myself, as I mentioned, a specialist, but I'm good at being a generalist. I'm a great generalist, because if I know the limitations of my knowledge, and I can say, okay, I can help you right until here. Now go talk to this person, talk to this person, talk to this person. So they go to the next levels, right?
Okay.
Now, answering your question, the one-on-one is this a la carte, or whatever that is going to come. We're going to figure it out. We're going to deduce in real time with that person. In breathwork is a little different, because in breathwork there are no words. So I'm constantly seeing nervous systems the moment that they arrive. Hi, my name is JJ. What's your name? Oh, Katelyn. Okay, nice meeting you. I'm constantly assessing the nervous system, not at a cognitive level, but now it's automating inside of me. Like, because sometimes I will have people that you can clearly tell that they have a nervous system that is highly dysregulated. So I have to be extra careful with them, knowing that the protocol could be too much for them. So at the beginning of the session, right, even before we start the actual practice, I will tell, if this is too intense for you, feel free to stop following me. You have complete control of this. You can inhale for 4, exhale for 8. That down regulates the system, because I'm gonna upregulate their system big time.
So we've seen it. We've seen people do it.
We've been part of it.
Exactly.
Okay, so if there is somebody out there, and let's say that they've hit that plateau, or they have that goal in mind for themselves, and they know that they have the capacity to do it, but for some reason they just haven't gotten there, and there's now, based on your philosophy, there's some difference between where their head is and where their heart is. How can they go about understanding where that gap might be? What would be the first thing that they could do?
The gap is easy to figure out. If there's someone who has a goal that has not been able to accomplish even despite of trying, it's because that clearly that's the misalignment. And usually the misalignment happens in what are the emotions that are not being felt. Right? The fear of, right? And it's an underlying fear. It's like when you have, it's like having a pain point in the psyche usually that you don't know where is it, but it's like, I feel like, That's exactly what I used to feel when I used to live in Bolivia. Like
Okay.
I thinking that being a manager was going to fulfill or going to give me
Mm-hmm.
The
that
hole,
idea there.
fill the hole,
Fill the hole,
fill the
but
void.
it's not, and the hole is painful.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the reason we also need to co-regulate with other humans. Because, for example, Katelyn, I can be smiling like big time here, and I have a piece of kale here, and I don't know.
Yeah.
And you can tell me, hey, JJ, you have that one,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's because we have blind spots, and those blind spots can be easily pinpointed by other people that we trust, that we feel safe with. And that's the reason working one-on-one with human optimizations, with a coach, or anyone that has this role of creating a safety and a trustworthy relationship is so big.
Mm-hmm.
In my case, for example, I keep a specific number of clients, and we also have a deadline. We know that at this moment we stop working together for at least 2 months, or at least 2 or 3 months, so
Okay.
they have a break. My goal is not just to be with them continuously,
Okay,
because
wow.
that's a for me that is sign that I didn't do my work
Yeah.
properly. My
Mm-hmm.
goal is to train them so that they can do it themselves
And
later.
do it on their own.
Right, and obviously
Yeah.
installing them some of the new behaviors or strategies that are going to help them get to the next level.
I love that strategy. That
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. I thought about that myself. Like for my business, is my goal is to take the training wheels off here
Yeah.
at some point, and that is what I try to throughout the course of the process. I'm trying to make them learn how to be more self-sustaining, and I guess literally just letting them go for a couple months at a time and going, hey, you're on your own here, is probably a really great way of going.
And also something that I've discovered in the last few years is because obviously, let's say that I am a little above here where they are there in their developmental stage. I get them here to my level. Amazing. That forces me to guess what?
Upgrade,
Upgrade.
Ooh,
optimize,
okay, yeah.
And so
optimize.
it
Yep.
becomes this game
Yeah,
continuously.
that's
right?
awesome.
So that's the reason you will see me going to different workshops and things. I have this philosophy that is, in order to be a good facilitator, I must become a great student. In order to be a good facilitator, I must become a great student, because by being a great student is that I can open up the mind and then do a little bit better the work at
Right.
facilitation.
And I think my question was more like, obviously working with you, you're going to figure out what the blind spot is. But let's say that somebody in the audience wanted to like at least start the process of kind of sifting through that on their own. Like, what do you have any practices that you would recommend to like a client to
Yeah.
dive into that and try to make sense of it on your own without having somebody to talk through it with?
A good one that recently we started adding to, over the last 2 years, it is, and I talked about it in the newsletter recently,
Okay.
last week. It is called this wheel of emotions, but it's not the traditional wheel of emotions that you have this plethora of wheels. No. It is a wheel of emotions that has 2 circles. So the outer circle has emotions categorized in different areas, but that's the outer one, and the inner circle says, when I am in this state, I experience this emotion. So it's reverse engineering things. So if a person has tried to do something and it's not working, or it's getting distracted, or it's procrastinating, once they go into, okay, procrastination, I feel procrastination when I am experiencing, let's say overwhelm. Then if I experience it overwhelm, how can I simplify this? That's an easy one. So we're reverse engineering the emotions that we experience at one moment, finding out what's happening contextually or internally or externally, and from there start creating their own strategy, their own experiments. Every strategy starts with an experiment, right? That's an example.
That's awesome. Okay, and then how would if we find out that maybe our nervous system isn't fully regulated, or there is incoherence there between where we think we are and where we actually are, or where our nervous system is. With the time left, I'd love to kind of get into some practices that somebody in the audience again could employ. Maybe it's breathing or otherwise, to maybe ground them or to give them that jolt that they need. I guess like I'll let you sort of take away maybe some of like the ideas.
Great. One of the things to mention there is that the body is continuously sending information to the mind. And sometimes we try to breathe with the mind, eat with the mind, move with the mind, without allowing the body to actually tell us this is what we need. And so a clear indication of this connection is when we have, again, this painful hold somewhere and we cannot pinpoint where is it. That's a great point that there is a disconnection. That's a great starting point. And from there, the continuous offload of stress, whether it's through breathwork, through movement, through even vocal toning, etc., is key. It's not something new. It's not something woo. It's something that ancient cultures have been doing for years. That when we were doing at the beginning of this, let's do a little bit of shaking. But that shaking is already part of being a mammal.
Yep.
And we're still mammals. That's part of the feature. Let's all shake.
Yeah, I remember you said that in the beginning of the breath work. Like all
Yeah,
animals shake, and that's their release of energy. And us as humans, we're always like, we don't like do that naturally.
Yeah.
But all animals do.
I
Or,
talk
like,
about how
release that energy.
I'm
of
out
some
in the
sort.
street when I'm doing my walks, and I'm like, especially if I'm getting particularly creative or I have stuck emotions, I'm in the street dancing, shaking it off all the time, looking like a crazy person. But hey,
Because a type of just one movement or one posture creates this monotone of life. By changing and shaking, we're also releasing different parts of the neurochemistry that may be stuck, that is recreating the same emotions that we do not want to experience. Now, obviously, the quickest one to change all of this, besides movement, is also breath. So the posture that we have, all of us right now, is dictating the way that we're seeing reality. And the way that we change reality is also by changing neurochemistry through the breath. So let's do a quick exercise right now.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get you a little bit. Okay, how much? Okay, this is going to be amazing. So
okay,
for the majority of
I'm
people,
gonna move the mic away a little.
great. The majority of people, they do box breathing. Box breathing, everyone and their grandmas, they do it. But unfortunately, box breathing for many people is dysregulating. But because they have heard the guru that they respect and they say, you need to do box breathing, they go back into the recipe. It's like, oh, I am failing.
Yeah. For somebody who might not know what is box breathing, what do people typically think about?
Typically, people think about 4 seconds in, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds exhale, 4 seconds hold. They don't ask if it's nose or mouth. They don't ask if it's 4 seconds or 4 Mississippis, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
one Mississippi,
Yeah.
2 Mississippis, right? So that gives me to that leads me to a concept that I call the shapes and the sizes of shapes. So right now we're gonna take the shape of box, but this box could be very small. It could be 2 seconds in, 2 seconds out, and 2 seconds. 2 seconds in, 2 seconds hold, 2 seconds out, and 2 seconds hold. Then we can go into threes. Then can go into fours. Then can go into fives. So think about dumbbells in the gym. When you go to work out, you don't really go into and get the 100-pound, the 100 dumbbell immediately.
Right.
I do.
now.
I do. But.
Yeah, there are exceptions.
Yeah. There's
He's
exceptions
right.
to it, yeah.
He's right.
I'm fucking
But you did not start like that.
Yeah.
You started with something that was
little
smaller,
bit
and then you started
little
improving,
bit.
improving. a little bit smaller, like 95. Now, if you want to push your system, you go into 6, 7, 10 seconds box breathing every second. Or in your case, at
I'm gonna start it too. I'm gonna start it too for this. Dumbbells and breathing are very different from me.
Right. So
Yeah.
because holding usually stresses the system, whether holding at the top or the bottom creates different neurochemistry. So I'm gonna take you just through a little bit of 2s, 3s, 4s, and then we're gonna jump into 10s. Okay, like we're gonna have, and then after that I'm going to make you exhale, hold at the bottom, and using the mouth, we're gonna take 3 deep inhales. So it's gonna look like, and then, so make sure that it goes to the belly, to the chest, and even pack up those lungs and exhale, 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 and we're gonna see what happens. I'm gonna put a quick timer for this.
And everybody, please feel free to join
Yeah.
us.
Please don't do this if you are driving or if you are in a pool. Don't do this.
Or operating heavy machinery.
Yeah,
or anything.
operating heavy machinery. You're gonna get lightheaded for sure.
Well, I will say this: when we were doing the brunch and we were doing the brunch, I was following along with some of the breaths, and I was standing up as opposed to laying down, and I got very lightheaded, really fast.
quick.
Like I thought I was gonna pass out for a second, for sure. He caught
God.
me. He was like, "Yo, watch out!" And I was like, "Yeah, you're right."
Oh my gosh. I didn't realize that happened.
Okay.
Okay, let's do this. So let's close the eyes, relax the shoulders, and wherever you are with the nose, exhale nose. Hold at the bottom, and we're gonna start with first a very small 2-2-2-2 box breath. Let's start in 3, 2, 1. Inhale for 1, 2, hold, exhale, hold. Inhale, hold, exhale, hold. Inhale, hold, exhale, hold. Let's go to 3s. Inhale, 2, 3, hold, 2, 3, exhale, 2, 3, hold, 2, 3. Inhale, 2, 3, hold, 2, 3, exhale, 2, 3, hold, 2, 3, Inhale, 2, 3. Hold, 2, 3. Exhale, 2, 3. Hold, and we're going to go to force. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, relax the shoulders, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, and we're going to go to fives. 4. Inhale slowly, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold, 4, 5. Exhale slowly, 3, 4, 5. Hold, 2, 4, 5. Inhale and target the belly, 3, 4, 5. You got it. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, relax the jaw, 4, 5. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. Last one before we go into tens. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, control, 3, 4, 5. Hold it there, and we're going to go to tens. 5. Inhale slowly, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hold and track shoulders, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Slowly exhale, control the exhale. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hold at the bottom. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Inhale slowly. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hold. If there's any tension in the jaw, you can unlock the jaw. Just keep holding it. 10. Exhale. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hold at the bottom. If there is saliva in the mouth, that is expected. Is your body responding to the practice? 8, 9, 10. Inhale. Last one. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hold. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Exhale slowly. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hold at the bottom. Hold it there. Hold it there. We're going to switch to 3 inhales and 3 exhales. Hold at the bottom. We're going to start in 3, 2, 1. In. Exhale, exhale, exhale. In, X. Keep going at that. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. Let's go for the last 5. Last 3. Last 2. Last 1. Take a deep inhale. Now blow all the air completely. Hold at the bottom. Hold at the bottom. It's likely that you notice a change in temperature. That's expected. Hold at the bottom. You can place your hands to the sides of your... That's right. Lap. Hold it there. If there's any tension in the neck, slowly wiggle from side to side the neck, very slowly. You may notice your heartbeat going faster, and that's expected. If you notice any other changes in your metabolism, like tingling sensations or lightheadedness, keep holding at the bottom. When I let you know, we're going to slowly inhale through the nose. Just take a few more normal breaths with the nose. We're going to inhale in 3, 2, 1. Slowly inhale. Hold at the top. We're going to release in 3, 2, 1. Release. Slowly inhale, nose. Exhale, mouth. Inhale, nose. Exhale, mouth. Last one. Very slowly inhale, nose. Very slowly exhale mouth. Make it very slow, very silent. And you can open your eyes. I'm curious to know, what did you experience?
You want to go first?
Definitely with that. Like I could feel towards the end, my heart rate was
Yeah.
going, and then an increase in temperature. And then I've noticed this with my breathing recently. I read a book, Breathe, and it was,
James Nestor.
so it was really good. But it talks about like really clearing and like after that exhalation, like getting to that bottom and really emptying out. And that's where I find I have resistance. And so like I don't know how to like work past that. And I wanted to actually talk to you about it,
Yeah.
of how to like break through to that. Cause when at the end, when you're like, okay, hold it for 10 seconds, that's when I'm like, oh, I feel like I can't hold like after I empty.
Yeah.
So
In this case today, for example, what we did is we oxygenated properly the body, especially with box breath, and then you were able to have more. We reduce your carbon dioxide sensitivity for a little bit. So when we did later is super oxygenated, removing carbon dioxide, and you could hold longer. You hold your breath for about, let's see, here 42 seconds. So that is obviously something very small, but usually in the sessions we had people holding their breath for like 2 minutes and a half.
yeah.
And they're like totally cool, and it's because they have hacked their own nervous system to do that. Now the reason why they're able to do that is because obviously their body has plenty of oxygen, their sensor for carbon dioxide has reduced, but because of that they can produce more carbon dioxide, which is a relaxing factor. Right? So if you notice the change in temperature, for example, in your hands, and maybe the sweating a little bit, right, and the heartbeat, how was it for you?
So the box breathing part, I found it reminded me of like my meditation. It's not too unlike what I do with that. So like that was fun, and not only was it fun, but I, as I typically do, I was like to challenge myself. Like you were saying, let it out slow and controlled, and I found myself unwittingly like just releasing it that first time, and then I had to on the next one I was like, okay, now I'm gonna control it on the next one. So like having that little fun challenging myself to do that was cool and meditative without being like overworking, I guess. And then when we were doing the 3 in 3 out, you're right, like I felt my whole body go into like almost chills. First I didn't feel necessarily sweaty, and you said my heart rate might jump up, and I think I noticed it maybe a little bit, but more than anything, I noticed like
Tingles.
coldness. That long breath at the end, I was probably like 2 seconds or 3 seconds shy of when you said to release, and I was like really holding on, and I just couldn't. And then at the end, when I opened my eyes, like everything was like, it seemed like the world was like saturated, and it was like took me
it's
a
like
second
fresh
to
eyes.
like come back. So yeah, it was
We're
beautiful.
planning to do a research, by the way, with researcher from UT, because we're realizing with this type of superventilation, the last part that we did, the eyes receive more blood flow, and so a person that has a little bit of problems with that, for the next 5-10 minutes, they're able to see better.
Yeah.
And this is fascinating. So we're starting to think about how to create our research on that.
I believe actually when I do like, especially with like deadlifts and squats, when I'm going really heavy and I have that like head rush and I kind of like feel like I'm gonna black out a little bit. Usually my ears go and like my vision goes a little bit, and then when it comes back, it's not too unlike what I just experienced, where it's like super vivid.
Because you're getting into the Valsalva maneuver, so your body's applying what's called the Valsalva maneuver to protect the core, the spine, etc. So doing all of that pressure, right? It's kind of like what I do. You're doing it that with weight, exogenous weight, but I'm doing it with intra-abdominal pressure. So we're reaching the same.
That's awesome. So what should we have gotten out of that, and what would be the benefit of doing something like that?
So this is what I call a quick reset, because first of all is getting the mind focused on the tempo, right? And not just playing with this. At sometimes it can be monotonous or very boring box breath, but instead playing with sizes.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, playing with the sizes is gonna give you a range or assessment of, for me 5 works fine, and pushing my system is 7. Okay, great. So now you have a range to play there. And then the other one was playing more with, if we have gone longer with breath hold at the bottom, you would have gotten into a more meditative state, maybe longer a little bit with three inhale, 3 out, and then more exhale. You're gonna be even more zen.
Yeah.
So that changes immediately there.
Awesome.
I love
That
that.
was fantastic. JJ, we're at time here, so we're gonna have to wrap up. But thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
That was
you.
awesome.
Thank you so much.
Tons of beautiful wisdom and really cool takeaways and practices that hopefully everybody gets to enjoy and take home with them. Where can people find you? What should people know about you? How can people get into what you're into?
Great. The quickest way is at JJ Ruescas, JJRuescas.com or optimizingme.com. That's actually the one that we have. Either of them are going to redirect to the website. And it's kind of easy to search these days for JJ Human Optimization. And
Okay.
I'm going to be the first one
The
popping
guy,
up.
the guy. You're
That's
the guy
awesome.
in the field. That's awesome to hear. And honestly, we could have done 2 hours here.
Yeah.
So
You
maybe
have so many great stories.
Maybe we'll have to do another hour
Yeah.
at some
Yeah.
point. Thank you
For
so much for
sure.
being here.
Honored again. Thank you
Of
so
course.
much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.